This opened up my eyes to the fact that I do not have to be the person, and I should not be the person running the business, right? Or doing the business. You can ignore the advice in that book if you just want to make like $40,000 or $50,000 a year, maybe even $60,000 or $70,000 a year. Today, I have my friend here who is the founder of 2000 Books. So welcome, Manny.
Thanks for having me, John. And of course, it's a YouTube channel. It's just a small part of what we do. 2000 Books is basically devoted to extracting the most actionable lessons from the world's greatest books. What we're looking for is what's the actionable insight? What's the real lesson from his life?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the key value is like, and that's what we're going to be talking about today is like, what did we get out of the book? What is the value out of the books here? So we're going to go through 10 books today that are some of the best ones for starting an online business. If you want to start an online business, let's jump right into it. So I think the first one that we had on the list here is the 4-Hour Workweek. This book is quite infamous.
Yes, and I think this is a list that, like both you and I, since we've read so much, I have read over 1,500 books. You've probably read over 1,000 books at this point. We've come to the conclusion that these are some of the best books for online business building.
Right.
And 4-Hour Workweek is a cult classic, right? And one of the biggest things for me in that book was when I was in my job, when I was in my 9-to-5 job, I literally used to think that the only way I could build a business was raise funding, go to venture capitalists, build a software business, and that's what it was going to be. But part of me yearned for freedom. I wanted to have, the freedom to do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. Freedom of location was like really something I aspired to because my parents are in India and I want to be able to take care of them whenever I want to, whenever I feel like it. And when I came across this book, it was revolutionary for me to actually see that, damn, this is actually possible. It's possible to build an online business that you can run from anywhere in the world, and it is profitable. It actually makes you more money than in your current job, way more as you grow the business, and the effects are almost explosive over time. What was your take on it, John?
Yeah, so I I would say that the biggest thing that I really got from it, I mean, I already sort of had the mindset of not doing like not doing a startup business, doing kind of bootstrap, but more of what I was doing was hustles, right? It was like I'd started a business like selling things on eBay, and I'd find things and sell them on eBay, and it wasn't really like a real sustainable business model, or I did various things like that. I wasn't really thinking in terms of creating like an actual business that would give me that freedom where I didn't have to work all the time. So that book sort of opened up my eyes to that. And then I think one of the biggest factors, actually, biggest takeaways from the book for me was like firing your trouble customers, right? That was, and I still employ that to this day, right? It's like the way I run my business now today is that I require all payments. Like if I do advertising or someone, paying me for something, they must be paid up front. I don't do any 90-day net. I don't do, and a lot of people tell me, oh, well, no, this is how we do business. And my answer is basically fuck off. Like, because I'm not dealing with anyone who's trouble. Like if you're trouble, it's not, and that has saved me a lot of headache, right? If someone doesn't pay an invoice and all that shit that happens, or if someone's just becoming, a pain in the ass, I'm willing to cut them off. And so I'm only focusing on the people who actually are good customers and provide good value for me in my business. And by doing that, I have been able to save a lot of time. And I've actually been able to make it so that even though I don't work 4 hours a week, I could in my business. It's really actually possible. It'd be hard to grow, to be honest with you. I don't think you can really grow a business working 4 hours a week for the most part, but you can definitely create a business that you only have to put about 4 hours a week into if you do it the right way. And so that's kind of the big takeaway I got from the book.
Yeah, and the other takeaway, or the big takeaway for me, was to start with the end in mind. Because a lot of times as employees, as like someone who was working in a 9 to 5 job, the thinking was that I will make all this money for the rest of my life till I'm 65, then I'll retire, and then I'll have my quote unquote golden years to enjoy my life, which
Right.
was which what Tim Ferriss showed was really flawed thinking. So when you start to think really with the end in mind, with like you first design what you want to do with your life and then create a business around it, quote unquote what he calls lifestyle design, that was crucial to understand that if you begin with the end in mind, like for me, being able to go to India, being able to take care of my mom and dad, that was really important for me. There was no compromise on that front. And I felt like if I was going to be in a job, it would have been almost impossible to take action on it consistently or whenever I felt like it. So having that clarity of this is what I want to have in my life, and then moving it back into, okay, this is what I need to do in order to have that.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I think that's key because so many people look at it the opposite way, where they're looking at the constraints or the what they instead of designing specifically, what do I want, and then how can I get what I want. I think that's a better way to look at things. How about Built to Sell? I think that was a really good one for me. Like Built to Sell was a book that it's really it tells a story about a guy that wants to sell his business, and it's like a graphic design business, and he just he doesn't know how to go about this process. And then when he talks to this business consultant, he tells him, well, your business isn't really worth anything because you are required to run the business. And so the whole point of the book is for this guy to figure out how to make the business that he wants to get out of, he's tired of the shit, sellable. And in the process of doing that, he creates a business that really almost becomes like a 4-hour work week for him, right? It's like he doesn't have to actually work in it's now this pain in the ass business that was doing all these things became this simple, streamlined business where he actually doesn't have to do much. And so I think in the end of the book, he decides not to sell the business. Or, I mean, he has the option now. He can obviously sell it for multiple, millions of, whatever, a big multiplier versus his revenue, or he can just keep the business and it doesn't really cost him much and he's making a lot of money from it. So the reason why I like this book so much is because when I read this book, I realized that the message of the book is not how to sell a business. It's again, I mean, the title is Built to Sell, but it's about how to build a business that you could sell from the beginning. And thinking of building a business that is sellable makes the business enjoyable, more profitable, and less of a time sink on you. So I like this book for beginners, especially because if you know this ahead of time, you won't make the mistakes that I made, right? You won't make a lot of the mistakes that a lot of people make when they're building a business, not thinking about how, if I had to sell this business, how sellable would this be? Because those are the right decisions. And so I learned a lot just from, one of the biggest takeaways for me from the book was to cut things down. Like in the book, he has this graphic design business and he's doing all these different things. He's doing logos, he's doing all this shit, he's doing custom stuff for all these clients, and he cuts out, actually, again, kind of to echo like 4-hour work week, he cuts out his biggest clients that are making the most money for him so he can focus on the one thing that he's going to specialize in with his business, which is like creating these custom logos and this 5-step process of doing it. And that is extremely valuable to know, is that as a business, your best bet is to focus on one thing that you do really, really well, put all your energy and effort into that, and not try to do 50 different services.
And we talked about this book quite a lot in our gym sessions, right? We talk
Yeah.
about books all the time when we're working out, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. every freaking week, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things that we talk like that in the book Built to Sell, John Warlow talks about this idea that in order to build a business that you can sell, you have to take yourself out of the business. You have to figure out ways to take yourself out of the business. And a lot of times I feel the strife for a lot of online entrepreneurs, even the biggest names in the business today, the name is the business, right?
Yeah.
The name becomes synonymous with the business. But if you really want to build a scalable business, if you really want to build a business that you want to be able to run passively or sell, you have to figure out how the business can run without you. And that's been like one of the biggest undertakings I have taken over the last year or so, hiring my team and working with the team to like getting them to to in some ways involve them a lot more, to train them so that they can do the things that I used to do, and and really grow the business that way, rather than thinking that I am superhero and it's either me doing everything or the business doesn't work. So to remove myself from the business, like it's almost a requirement to make a sellable business, that you need to remove yourself from the business. You need to be you need to be just whose job is redundant, in the sense someone else can fill your role. Because if someone else cannot fill your role, the acquirer doesn't really have anything for your business, like any value for your business.
Mistake that I made, and that I think a lot of the books that we have on this list kind of highlight this. The reason why we're picking these out specifically is because the mistake that I made was thinking that I would only want a lifestyle type of business. And you can ignore the advice in that book if you just want to make like $40,000 or $50,000 a year, maybe even $60,000 or $70,000 a year, or $100,000 a year. In
Even
your
a million,
business.
man. We know people who are making a million,
Yeah.
but the business is worth nothing without them, right?
Yeah.
The biggest names in online industry, like if you take them out, there is no business.
But those are few. I mean, like the average person could build a
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle business, let's say making $60,000 or $70,000 a year, where they don't have to work a regular job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and they don't have to follow any of these principles, right? It's actually, for everyone listening that you don't have a business, you're thinking, oh shit, if I could just have a business, right? I know what you're thinking because I was there, right? If I could just make $70,000 a year from my online business and quit my job, I would be free and I'd be happy and I could travel and I would work from Europe and I'd work from here, and I'd be like 4-hour work week kind of. But that's the wrong thinking, because that's easy to do. You might think that that's really hard to do. That's actually easy. If you're willing to put in the work and grind it out for 3 years, almost every single one of you listening can get there. But what's harder is to get past that. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why, it's really important to think about this ahead of time. It's like, because too
Yeah.
many people are focused, and that was me. I just wanted a lifestyle business. But had I had thought a little bit ahead of time, right? Had I had listened to the podcast that we're making right now, then I would have planned things a little bit further out and would have said, well, I want to get to the point where I can have $1 million or more business, and not just a lifestyle business. And it's small alterations. It's not even
Mm-hmm.
like huge things, but knowing those things, I think makes the difference. That's why a book like
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
really important.
It's interesting. Like we go from 4-hour work week to build to sell, which both have very different end results in mind. But in fact, to me, I borrow from both of these books and I use the principles from both of these books, because I know I can actually do what I want to do, like with my time,
Right.
while still building a business that's sellable, that's scalable, while still running the business, while still onboarding the team, while still building people, while still training my staff and building the business that's scalable. I think the revolution that Tim Ferriss started in some ways was the thinking, which has affected a lot of my decision, is that you can work from anywhere in the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
What has not changed is the fact that you will still need to do the work,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that is the trade-off that as a business owner I have made now. I realize I can work from anywhere in the world as long as I'm still doing hard work and long hours and putting in the time I need to build this damn business. Just because I am not in San Diego doesn't mean anything. Just because I'm in Miami or in India or in Cancun or whatever, it doesn't mean anything, because I'm still putting in the hours to grow the damn business. So the location independence part is what is fascinating about what we do. But at the same time, building a business that's scalable is truly possible in today's online world. You just have to have the right mindset. I started with the wrong mindset, just like you did, John, with the book summaries, thinking that I was the expert on all of this. Over time, only to realize that there are a lot of great people who can do the work as long as I can teach them how to do the work. And that's what we've been transitioning. Like I've been constantly hiring writers to do so much of the work that initially I thought I was so good at doing. How about Launch by Jeff Walker? Because
Okay.
that's
Yep.
a book that really, like, We can talk all about the big picture of building this kind of business or that kind of business, but when it comes time to make stuff happen and make money, what do you do? And
Right.
today's world, I see so many people who are in for a lot of pain because they don't realize that all they're doing is building, like they're, I'm going to build a YouTube channel, or I'm going to have a Facebook group, or I'm going to have a big podcast, or I'm going to have a big Instagram following, but they don't know what to do with that following. All they are hoping
Exactly.
is the ads will pay for them. The ads will be the revenue generator, or sponsorships, quote unquote, will be the revenue generator. But the real business is not that. Real business is selling products. And that's what launch is all about. How to launch a product, how to create, like how to literally go about the process of selling your product, mostly information product or whatever kind of product you want to build.
Yeah, yeah, I like this book too. This is a default one that I is my go-to, especially with a lot of my coaching clients. I just send them to this book and tell them to read this book and then just follow it. And they're like, "Well, should I do something different? Should I?" And I'm like, "No, just do this, because don't reinvent the wheel." Like this, like the reason why this book is so good, I think, is just because, like, if you follow this formula, you will have success with a product that you're launching. It might not be optimal, right? I mean, sure, there's tweaks that you can make, and if I launch a product, I do some things differently than this, but this is one that I know, like it's almost guaranteed, right? It's like, this is why I like, because I like things that are systematic and guaranteed. And I know that if I can teach you how to get an email list with 5,000 people on it, and you get your email list, and then I have you read launch, and then I have you just follow every step in launch, that you're going to do launch and you're going to make at least like $20,000-$30,000, maybe more, right? You know, one of my guys made like 75,000 off of that. But I know that that will work, and I know it'll work for everyone. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's no variable there. So I like just having this kind of a book as a go-to book. And
Yeah.
you know, otherwise you can debate this all, like, it's like, okay, if you go and you search like launch strategy, how should I launch a product, how do I, it's like there's so many people saying all these different things, and it's like, oh, do I need to do this and that? And what he says in there, again, it might not be the most effective way, but it will work, and it will work good. It'll be like 80% effective. And so yes, that's why I like that book.
Yeah. And for me, the biggest takeaway from the book is that your email list is your
Oh yeah.
ATM in some ways. You need an email list in order to build an online business. Like whether you're a YouTuber or a podcaster or Instagrammer or whatever it is, you need an email list, because that's the only asset you control. That's the only way you literally can communicate with your audience. Instagram can take away your organic following any day. YouTube can take away your organic following every day. Facebook has done that in the past, and YouTube has done that. YouTube has changed the algorithms to a lot, to the point where maybe 1, 2, 3, 4% of your audience gets to see your videos,
Yeah,
compared to with email, I mean, 30% of your audience will get to see the emails. That's crazy. The numbers are just ridiculously um, there. And not only that, like you literally own that communication channel. You can send an email to that person. You cannot just send a YouTube video to a person. There's nothing like that. You can't send an Instagram post to a like all of those things are not there, what email offers. So realize email is the way to go to build a real legit online business. There's like, if you're going to go about doing this the right way, you're going to have to build your email list over time.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've always told people, like, you can take away everything else from my business. If you just leave me the email list, I'll be fine. I can rebuild the entire thing. But if you take away the email list, that's the thing that will screw me. Like, so
Yeah.
that's the most valuable asset of the business for sure. One of the quintessential ones, Millionaire Fastlane by MJ DeMarco. This book, I really like this because this is like a life-changing, eye-opening book. This is one of those books that you buy a bunch of and you hand out to people, because it just changes their perspective. Like, so many different takeaways for me from this book. One of the greatest ones of all was, well, yeah, one of them was realizing that while I was doing real estate investment, that was actually the slow lane, because I thought I was doing the fast lane. But just like investing in real estate for, you know, buy and hold, it's good, it's great, but it's somewhere in between. I'd say maybe the slow
Mm-hmm.
lane and the fast lane. That's where it is, because it's not going to get you rich quickly, right? It'll get you rich over time if you do it for long enough, for sure. But you need something else, and and that was the other, major takeaway for me, was just this idea that, okay, he talks about retiring when you're 65, and like being like having the convertible or whatever in the old person's home, and like and like it's like, what's the value of having all this money and the freedom when you're old and you can't enjoy it, right? And so it really, I think the book really clearly shatters all of the bullshit illusions that you have, that you're somehow going to become rich or somehow going to become wealthy or retired young if you don't do something actually to make that happen. And I think that's a huge eye opener
Yeah.
for a lot of people when you
Yeah.
face that reality. It's like, okay, retiring in the nursing home or whatever, or even in your 60s or 70s, it's not like working all your life to do this, and then like that's not the path that you probably actually want to go down with your life.
Yeah.
And so the only solution to this is to start a business. You have to start a business. Like, it's the only way that you're going to get out of this,
Yeah.
really. Like I said, for me, real estate investing is escaping the rat race. But again, that's a 20-30 year slog. Whereas if you really want to retire young and build your wealth, you can do it in 5 to 10 years building a business.
Yeah, and like there's so many great insights on it. I released multiple videos on this on our YouTube channel, but one of the things that I see so often is the difference between the process mindset and the event mindset, and that's one of the
uh
most important takeaways for anyone who's listening, to go away from the event mindset and into the process mindset of life. Because I see this all the time. Literally, people like engineers I used to work with, who I've worked with for years, and they still have that mindset. Their hope is that somehow they're invested in the stock market, right? So somehow they're hoping one day one of these stocks will
right.
take off, they'll make so much money that they will retire for the rest of their lives. Or the other is, maybe they will come up with this genius idea,
Right.
and hence as a result of that they will make tons of money. And that's a very standard thinking, that's a very slow lane thinking process, which is like, oh, somehow there will be a lottery event and I will make it big. But the truth of business and life is that you must submit to the process, you must do the work, you will actually have to start a business, work the business. It's
Yeah,
not about the idea, it's about the execution, it's about doing the thing again and again and again, and over time you will get the result. The
exactly.
process mindset is what will save you, and the event mindset is what will sink you. The lottery mindset will take your dreams to your grave. I really believe that, because most people are killing their dreams with the lottery mindset, the idea that somehow someday some magic will happen and my life will transform. It's not going to happen, my friend. Your business is not going to transform. Your job is not going to suddenly make you worth $100 million. Your stock portfolio isn't going to make you worth $100 million. It's probably going to take away or sink your money when you are when you feel like shit, the stock market was supposed to go up, it's gone down, and you exit the market at the wrong times. All of these things will happen because you're living in the event mindset.
Yeah,
But when you are living in the process mindset, when you realize, okay, I have to do the work, I have to work the business, I have to work the business to make this business work, it will change everything in your business. It will change everything in your life. Every day, so many times I get emails from people saying, hey man, I'm looking for that great idea. I know I want to invest in your entrepreneurship book summaries, but I don't have any idea. And I'm like, well, if you're going to wait for idea, you're going to wait for the rest of your life to get
right.
started. You need to start, and you will figure out as you go.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's really true. Especially, it's interesting too about the stock thing that you said, because I think a lot of people bank on that. They're like, okay, well, what if the stock goes way up? And I mean, Bitcoin did that. And I mean, there's a few Bitcoin, billionaires out there, but there's not many. And a lot of people had Bitcoin, because what happens is, like, if a stock goes up like that, you sell it. Like, who has the balls to hold on to it for it to do 1,000 or 10,000% return, right? As soon as it hits to, like, 1,000% return, you're not going to have the balls to keep on holding on. Even 100% return, most people, get rid of it anyway. Plus, so it requires a huge luck factor. And then even if you got lucky, you're not going to, it's just, I think shattering all those illusions of ways that you think that you're going to somehow strike it rich is you have to have a plan. It has to be an actual plan. and then the other thing I like too in the book also is just so many people preach the compound interest, and he has a chart in there, and he's like, okay, look, here you go. Here's what happens if you start with like $100,000. I forget what the number. And he's like, okay, over 30 years compounding, it's like only in the last 5 years are you actually making any real money. It's like, just skip the part, start with the $1 million and then compound. So I think that was a really powerful insight for me, was the idea that everyone's preaching compounding interest, but what they don't realize is that, like, why try to compound the money when you have a small amount to try and get to the point where you have a big amount where it actually makes a difference? Instead, shortcut all that and just come up with the initial investment, put $1 million and start compounding your interest on that, because that you can reach by building a business and by making that money. And that's, I think that's extremely valuable. In fact, one of the things that I do with all my coaching and like Bulldog mindset is I have people go and play with the compound interest calculator. And I'm like, okay, so you think you're going to be rich someday or retire? Okay, let's put in the real numbers. Like how much money you think you're going to make? How much money you think you're going to save, right? Best case scenario, even how much return are you going to get on your investment? 8% here. I'll give you 8. I'll give you 10%. Take 10% if you want. And then look how many years in order for you to reach just $1 million or just $2 million, which doesn't make you rich, right? And when people see that sobering reality, then they have to like figure out, what the fuck am I actually going to do if I want to do this? And that, I think that's what the Millionaire FASTLANE, like that book is just a slap in the face. It's like, no, all the shit that you think, it's bullshit. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to make this shit happen.
Talking about online business, I think I want to talk about a book that you and I both love, and probably because it's so nuts and bolts, like, let's do the work to build this business, and that's Crush It by Gary Vee. For me, one of the biggest takeaways from the book is the idea that you need to create relentless content. You need to create content. You need to create a body of work that establishes the trust, that establishes you as an authority. And that's when people buy from you. I started this in 2015. And since that, we have over hundreds of videos, hundreds of podcast episodes. They're all talking about different books in the field of personal development, entrepreneurship, business management, all of those things. It's a body of work that I put together that allows people to know that what I'm doing, what we're putting out there is so good that they invest with us. They buy our products and services. It's not because I just put up one video and now everyone trusts me and now they're going to buy from me.
I'm not a huge Gary Vaynerchuk fan anymore, just because like I think it's just gotten kind of to the ridiculousness point, and I wasn't a big fan of his later books, but Crush It was definitely a book that I think is a game changer. Like it's very, very solid advice, just the idea of producing content, and I think that's what the back of my businesses are built on, is completely on content, and that's like the most valuable. Like giving people value is the key. Like the more value you can give people, and that's what the book really preaches, this idea of, this is, you're giving all this value, and then eventually what happens is that you build enough trust and people know who you are, and that free content creates all this, the traffic that eventually creates the business. And that's awesome, right? It's like, a lot of people try to build businesses with the product first and doing marketing and all this stuff. And some people are successful at that, but most people are not. But one of the, real benefits, like one of the greatest things about both of my businesses with Simple Programmer and Bulldog Mindset, is like Simple Programmer, it gets about 7,000 to 8,000 hits of blog traffic per day. That's like automatic people coming in because of that content. And then with Bulldog Mindset, the YouTube videos, like this channel gets about 700,000 views a month right now. And that's, again, just people coming in just from the backlog of content. And by having that amount of traffic, you can build a business, you can make money, and you can sell, like always, or you're not chasing down the next, all these customers and leads, and where am I going to get traffic from? And so, so Crush It is really kind of the book that really, for me, made me really think about that, and about how am I going to crush it in the content game. So how about Great by Choice? So this one is not as like beginner focused. I would say it's more of like the lessons from businesses that have been successful and why they're successful. But there's some definite gems in here. You know, probably the biggest one that I relate to is the 20-mile march, right? The idea that, and this comes from a couple of stories in the book about the first guys to go to the North Pole, right? Or yeah,
South Pole.
no, South Pole. Oh yeah, South Pole.
Yeah.
Okay, and basically, you know, to sum it up, one of the teams died. Everyone died, and the other guy made it like in record time. And the difference, the real difference, like what I mean, there was definitely a few differences, but one of the key differences was that the team that made it, they just basically had this plan of going 20 miles every day, whether or not it was a good day or a bad day, right? And they just made it their 20 miles, right? And on good days, they didn't push it. They didn't go more than the 20. On bad days, they made sure that they got the 20, even though it was hard. And the other team, they did the opposite. They basically, like, on good days, they would push it really hard and they'd go like a lot more than 20 miles. And then on the bad days, maybe they would not even go at all, or they would go a small amount. And it just, the big lesson from that is the one that I think is so valuable in business, is the grind, right? It's all about the grind. It's like you just have to have a plan and just stick to the plan and trust the process and just do it, like consistently produce the thing, right? It's like, for example, for this YouTube channel, a lot of people always ask me how to grow a YouTube channel, and how like every week I have my videos. I don't ever miss a week. There's never a period of time where like, oh, what happened to John on I mean, since I've been doing YouTube for like 5 years, I've always stuck to my schedule. At some points it was 2 videos a day. At one point it was 1 video a day. Now it's like 4 a week. But there's never been a week where it's like no videos came out or I didn't meet the schedule. It's always been that. And that's the key. Like, the biggest thing I think in business is consistency. And that's probably the biggest takeaway that I got, or the thing that resonated the most with me for that book.
Great by Choice is by Jim Collins, who's a professor of business at Stanford Business School. He literally studies Fortune 500 companies, companies of that nature, like billion-dollar behemoths, $100 billion behemoths, to figure out what makes them great, what makes them amazing, what makes them survive. And Great by Choice is literally a study of companies that outperform their competition tremendously. Like, how did they go about outperforming their competition 10x compared to the control group in some ways? Companies like Southwest versus just any other airlines, or companies like Intel versus other chip makers, and so on and so forth. So the lessons are from giant businesses, but the lessons apply to us online entrepreneurs as much as they apply to any other business. And this is a book I really enjoyed summarizing, because there are so many important takeaways that any online entrepreneur can take away. It's a dense read. It's a heavy read, because the stories are pretty hardcore. But one of the lessons, like you said, was for you was a 20-mile march. For me, the biggest lesson was to understand that luck, in some ways, it's not like some businesses get lucky and other businesses don't get lucky. Every business gets luck, gets a shot at luck. The only difference is what you do with that luck.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not that you don't have luck or you were unlucky. It's your return on luck. What you do with those favorable events. He actually measured, they literally measured the lucky breaks different businesses got. And what they found was businesses that broke through, businesses that were doing 10x, they didn't have any more lucky events. It was just that they continued to do the work. And I'm going to add to this. The other big takeaway from this book is a stoic mindset towards business. Mm-hmm. Understanding that it's not the circumstances that define your business. It's what you do that will define your business. Your circumstances are irrelevant to how you grow your business. And that is like huge to understand, that it's not about the circumstances, what kind of business you will end up building. It's all up to you. Your execution is going to determine the success, not the circumstances. Circumstances are such a small part of it. It doesn't matter. It's the Stoic philosophy 101 in some ways. You worry about the things you can control, or you focus on the things you can control and not even worry about the things you cannot control. Right? And that Stoic mindset applied to business in some ways. This is like core mindset book. By the way, if you guys want summaries of all of the books that we've discussed and 50 greatest books on entrepreneurship. I've summarized all of them in our entrepreneurship pack. And you guys can go to the link below and enter the coupon code BDM for Bulldog Mindset, BDM, and get 30% off. It's probably for the first 50 people who use that coupon will get that. So just wanted to throw it out there for you guys. Expert Secrets is one that I think of as one, especially if you're trying to be, if you have some sort of an expertise in an area,
Yeah.
if you are maybe a coding expert or a mindset expert or a dating expert or a health expert or whatever it is, and you want to build an online business based on your expertise, Expert Secrets will literally give you the complete path to building your expert business, quote unquote.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the book because, again, it's very much in the sense of Jeff Walker's launch. It's formulaic in the sense that, like, I can give you this book and you can know nothing about starting an online business, and you can follow what the book says and you can build one, right? That's like when people are looking for, I mean, there's nothing guaranteed in entrepreneurship. Like, I can't tell you absolutely how to make money and how to build a business, right? No one can. But books like this one and Launch, if you just follow this, you're going to have success, right? Like, there's still going to be variables and stuff you're going to have to figure out specifically for you. But I like this because this is a book that I can confidently give to someone and say, okay, yeah, if you follow what's in here, you're gonna do well. Okay, maybe you can tweak things and whatnot, but this book kind of just lays it all out, and it gives you the formulas for how to construct the business, how to use the knowledge that you have to sell that knowledge, to put it together, how to market it, right? All of those little pieces. I think some of the complaints about books like 4 Hour Workweek and E-Myth Revisited, which we'll talk about, is that it doesn't tell you how to do it, right? Or even like one of the ones that like people all the time complain about is Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad. It doesn't tell you how to do it. Or even Millionaire FASTLANE doesn't really tell you how to do it. It gives you a little bit more of like the framework of it, right? But this is a book that tells you how to do it, and I think it's valuable, especially for beginners, to have something that they could follow, almost like a paint by number.
Yeah, yeah. And the big takeaway for me in this book was building a movement, building a mass movement around your quote unquote expertise, becoming the leader and showing people a way,
Yeah.
which means you have to take a stand, you have to stay true to your values and show people the possibilities as you take people. Like what you've built with Bulldog Mindset, you are the leader, you've taken a stance, you enrolled people into a cause to becoming bulldogs in their lives. You've shown them a new opportunity, and that's the 3-phase process of building a mass movement. What exactly you're doing is exactly the pathway that he describes, and the book gives you a framework to go and apply to build a mass movement.
So E-Myth Revisited, Michael Gerber, again, classic book in this space. Definitely, in my opinion, his best book. And the big thing with this book for me was that this opened up my eyes to the fact that I do not have to be the person, and I should not be the person running the business, right? Or doing the business, right? I should be the one who's working on the business, not in the business, right? He has the concept of someone who's like a technician who actually is working in the business, right? And then the business owner, right? And the various roles that you have, right? And for me, when I was running Simple Program at the time, when I read this book, I was about to give up. I was about to quit. And not because I wasn't making money. I was making okay money with the business, but I was just tired of making videos and then editing the videos every week, and then making podcasts and editing the podcasts and making blog posts and then formatting the blog posts and putting them on the website and all that stuff. And it was like every single week I had to do that grind. And that took up my entire week to do that, right? I had some very little extra time. And then once I realized, like when I read this book, the thing that stuck out of my head was the idea that, like, McDonald's, right? And he talks about in this book that McDonald's basically can hire high school students that have no work experience, that are not even very intelligent, and they can run a full fucking restaurant and produce a perfect result, right? Efficiently. And why? It's because of the systems that are in place, the process. And so I had this big like argument that, oh, I can't hire someone else. I can't have someone else doing this stuff in my, even like answering my email. I was like, oh, there's no way someone can know how to do this. There's no way someone can edit my videos correctly, or all these things. And I had this big block until I realized that, well, maybe I should design the system such a way that a high school student, someone who works at McDonald's, could come in and do this stuff. And so I started creating systems in my business, like just how to edit the videos, how to process my emails, all these things. And I was able to hire people to do that. And that completely changed my life and changed the business and allowed it to grow. So this book was foundational in the sense that it really showed me that this was possible and that systems are the most important thing in business.
Yeah, there's so many nuggets of wisdom in the book. He talks about the three people who live inside an entrepreneur, or anyone who starts a business: the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. And most
Yeah,
people are technicians when they start a business. They think that just because they know how to bake a pie means they know how to run a pie business,
exactly.
or
Yeah,
just because they know how to make a burger means they know how to run a restaurant that makes burgers. That's not at all the case. These are very different things. Knowing how to do sales consulting, like I literally had a coaching client of mine who's a sales consultant. He's doing sales consulting, and now he says, okay, I'm just going to do it on my own, and I'm going to try to figure it out. So he goes from being the technician, being the sales consultant, to trying to now scale up his business. And he's already running into exact roadblocks that Michael Gerber talks about and that I ran into a few years ago. So I know exactly what's happening in his
yeah,
business. Literally, he's like, I hired this person and she's not doing a good enough job. And I'm not
yeah,
sure, maybe I should fire her. She's not the perfect person. And this is exactly a point of failure that Michael Gerber talks about, that every adolescent business will go through this phase. And a lot of people will actually back off at that point. A lot of people like him, like fortunately, because he is working, like I can show in the path. But a lot of people, if they don't understand this, they will be like, oh, I tried to hired someone else to do it, they couldn't do it, so I just do it myself, and I'm happy
exactly.
with running my $10,000-$20,000 a month business, and I can't really go beyond that point. The key is to say, no, I'm going to figure out a way. And that's where, like, what he talks about, where you really have to teach people how to do it. And to that effect, I want to transition to the next book, because
I
I
know what
think,
it's gonna be. I know. I was just gonna say
which
the
one do you
same
want to talk
thing.
about? Because there are
Let
two books that are.
right. I was gonna say
Go
build
ahead.
a business, not a job.
Okay, build a business, not a
Yeah.
job. I actually just got back from David Finkel's conference. David Finkel is the author of this book, and he invited me to his conference. And I was really like, build a business, not a job is exactly about that. The nuts and bolts of what you need to do to create systems, to create processes, to run your business like a business, not like a job. A lot of people
Exactly.
end up creating jobs for themselves, especially even if it's an online business, just like what the sales consultant was doing. He was like, this person can't do the job. What do I do now? Well, the key is to spend that time to understand. To me, one of the biggest takeaways from Build a Business, Not a Job was to understand that it's not about me doing more.
Mhm.
It's about figuring out how to get the business to do more. And it's one of the biggest mindset shifts you can have in life. Going from how to do more to how to get the business to do more. And it's really crucial to like put the systems and processes and people in place, because until you do that, you will never be able to make that leap from a job to a business.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. Yeah. I was gonna say like the trend. The reason why I was thinking of that book when you're talking was because with build a business, not a job. One of the really awesome things that bridges the gap is that he uses some case studies of people like like surgeons or orthodontists, where that like they're able to create a business that runs without them. And that's like, you're kind of like, how that doesn't even make any sense. How could you be a surgeon, for example, and then create a business that basically runs without you? Well, the answer is that you stop thinking of it as you the surgeon, instead think of it as you provide surgery services, and then you can hire other surgeons to work in your office, and then you can still do surgery when you want to, but you can do it on a much less scaled basis. And then you can have these other surgeons doing all the work for you, basically. Then you can expand to multiple offices and things like that. And I think that's like the reason why I like that as such a powerful concept is because that's the biggest argument when someone says, "Oh, I can't do this job," right? Or someone else can't do this job. Well, a surgeon legit can say that, right? Like you can't just hire someone to do surgery for you, or it seems like it, but because I mean you got to go to school, you got to like it's a skilled position that's required. But if a person like that can scale their business out and turn their business into a business, not a job, then everyone can. There's no excuse. It just lays all those excuses bare. And like I said, and like you're saying, the book really does give you some good perspective on how to do this and how to change your business through the different levels. And again, someone starting out, this is going to be really valuable for them. It wasn't as quite as valuable for me, like where I'm at now in the business, because I am aware of a lot of those things. But starting out, I wish I had read this book, because then I would have been thinking about creating that level 3 business in how to get there from the beginning. Like, this has been
Yeah.
kind of a theme of a lot of the things that we're saying, right? So like people that are paying attention here, think about the end result of your business and how to make the business function without you from the beginning when you start the business, not
Yeah.
later on. It's harder to extract yourself than it is to start with that
Yeah.
that goal in mind. So,
By the way, are you hitting the table when you're making a point, because it's
yes.
reverbing into the
Oh,
mic?
nice.
Yeah, just FYI. So yeah, it's totally. This book was revolutionary for that perspective, like for a lot of people. And I have been a fan of this book, because I'm constantly now thinking there's 3 levels, as he talks about. The startup is level 1, level 2 is owner dependent, and level 3 is owner independent. And I'm somewhere in the level 2 right now. It is owner dependent, but I'm step by step trying to hire people and trying to go to that phase where more of my work can be done by others, like really going through the different stages of this book's phases in the business. And if you want even more nuts and bolts of what we talk about right now, which is like creating systems and process, there's another book that you and I have actually enjoyed a lot, which is Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz,
Yeah.
right? Because E-Myth is like the more very high level understanding of what you should think about of business in terms of being an entrepreneur. Build a business, not a job, gives you a framework in some ways, the step-by-step framework, the levels and the different components, the different pillars of a business. Clockwork tells you literally how to build systems and processes inside your business. So you go from top to bottom
Yeah.
here as you're doing this.
Yeah. I like that book a lot, again, because it's very formulaic in the sense that it gives you a solid action plan. There, a lot of the other businesses or books we talked about, you know, essentially making it so that you're not required for the business, like separating yourself so that you're actually running the business instead of being in the business. But they don't really tell you how to do it. I mean, they give you some ideas, some high level plans, and some of the things that you can do, putting in standard operating procedures, some things to extract you but from it. But Clockwork basically tells you exactly how to do it, right? And including having a plan set up where you have like this 2-week trial where you're going to step away from your business for 2 weeks and have everyone else run it. So it gives you like a real actionable launching plan. So I like books like that you can give someone, right? It's one of those books, again, another one that I would just hand out to business owners and be like, here you go, like read this book and implement this, and then you won't be trapped in your business anymore. And so I like that one. I thought it was really good. And again, like I said, it's kind of funny as we're looking through this list, most of the books that we're talking about are really focusing on the high level idea of get yourself out of the business, like of really build a business, not a job.
Yeah, I mean, we've started in some ways, like we talk about a lot of the mindset books, a lot of thinking long term and lifestyle design books. We talk about core mindsets of building a great business, like Great by Choice and Good to Great. Well, didn't really touch on Good to Great, but and also the mechanics of it, which is crush it. And there's a ton of books, like Content Inc. is one of them, that
Mhm.
is totally all about the mechanics of building that business. Expert Secrets is another one that's all about the mechanics of building a business. Automatic Customer Retention Point, the mechanics of building a subscription based business. So there's a Crushing It, Jab, Right Hook. These are more of the mechanics of building an online business. Like, what do you need to do on a day-to-day basis to build an online business? Build your YouTube channel, build your email list, build your product, build your sales funnels. All of those books are summarized, right? I've summarized all of those in the entrepreneurship hack. But not only that, the books kind of we're touching on now at a higher level are more of how to abstract and go to the next level in business by becoming more of the owners and the CEOs rather than the doers on a day-to-day basis, as we're, we're figuring out in the evolution of our businesses. That's the next step for us in many ways.
Yeah, yeah, and it should be, again, like the first step for people that are starting a business is to think of this ahead of time, right? Don't make the mistakes that we made initially in business, right? Like, I'm sure if you could start over today, right, you would do things a little bit differently, and you would, this. I would imagine that what we're talking about today from these books would be extremely valuable, and the stuff, and just having the summary of the books that you have, that would be extremely valuable to start over, right? That's the kind of stuff that I wish I knew when I was starting out, because that makes a difference a lot. It won't make as much of a difference when you're starting out, but it'll make a difference a year, 2 years down the road.
Let me quickly remind the people that they can get 50 summaries of the world's greatest entrepreneurship books, including all the books we've talked about, literally like 5 to 10 best ideas from each of those books. So over 300, 400 of the greatest ideas from the world's greatest business books in the entrepreneurship book summary pack. And they can find the link below for that. Just enter the coupon code BDM to get 30% off. The first 50 people will get that.
And don't enter BDSM. It's easy to put the S in there. You'll get a whole different set of book summaries. It won't help you with business at all.
It might help you with mental toughness.
Yes, with mental toughness.
If you want the mental toughness book summaries, maybe you can try the BDSM code and maybe you will get something out of it. Maybe we'll drop a link to that as well. My bonus is Good to Great.
Okay.
Good to Great by Jim Collins. I've referred to that book quite a bit. It's a study of some of the greatest businesses, Fortune 500 businesses, how they went from good to great. And one of the biggest takeaways, the funny thing is I summarized the book 6 years ago on our YouTube channel, and I summarized it all over again. And the perspective difference I got from that book, like going from 6 years ago to today. And not only that, the fact that I didn't even read the book, I just went through my mind map, but suddenly I had new insights because I had 6 years of business building background from that. And the biggest takeaway from the book is that greatness is not harder than mediocrity. Greatness is not harder than mediocrity. What that means is you can have a mediocre business and really struggle and keep it mediocre for the rest of your life, or you can build a great business and actually will not feel like a struggle. Why? Because greatness requires progress. Greatness requires momentum. And when you have that feeling of momentum, it's actually not hard. It's easy. Not only that, greatness requires simplicity.
Yeah.
More likely than not, if any of you guys who are listening today, like this is probably the biggest lesson I can give you today, is to simplify your damn business. More likely than not, your business is complicated and that's why you feel stuck. You're doing way too many things at this stage of your business. You're spinning way too many wheels in order to make your business work. You only need to focus. You need to do few things really well, or one flywheel, as he says, just rotate that flywheel. One product, one marketing channel, just sell the heck out of it. You will grow your business way more than trying to do 25 different things. Will never work. Simplify your business. One of the biggest takeaways from me for that book, and that book is also in the entrepreneurship book summary pack.
Okay, yeah, I agree with all of that. That's definitely a really good book, and simplify is key, right? And I like what you said about the idea that it doesn't require more for greatness, right? It's like, because the thing I think about is like, because people are always like, oh, it's hard work. It's not, because I think the person that's working 2 jobs, one at McDonald's and the other one, as a waiter or whatever, that they're working harder than most business people. I mean, arguably,
Yep.
and
Yep.
it's, a harder job, right? I mean, it's a lot easier, harder to do manual labor than it is to sit on your ass and do, whatever, even if you're working hard. But they're getting different results, completely different results. Why, right? There's something else there. It's not just about hard work, and it's the same thing with business. It's like you can run a
Mm.
business where you just work hard, and that's not necessarily the thing that's going to get you the results.
Yeah, momentum is the key here, right? Momentum changes the game, and momentum
Yeah.
comes from simplicity.
Okay, my bonus will be, let's see. How about let's do automatic customer. I feel like this one's a good
Mm.
one. So the reason why this book is so good is because if you're looking at starting a business today, what you should really be looking at for most people is some kind of a subscription based business. And that's what, obviously with Bulldog Mindset, I did that, and that's working really well because I have levels of income that don't fluctuate that much. And it's something where you can take something and you can turn a customer into a reoccurring customer. I think that's really the real benefit for that. And it's better to, it's hard, the hardest customer to get is the first one, right? Is like to get, but once you have a customer, it's easier to sell to that customer, right? Once they've already bought from you, right? So that's kind of the idea behind this. So automatic customer talks about how you can take pretty much any business model and turn it into a subscription based business model, and then some of the strategies for doing that, everything from selling upselling services like service contracts to doing monthly memberships like Bulldog Mindset. By the way, if you haven't joined that, you guys should join that. And and all the different ways that you can monetize and make money from the idea of selling something to a person more than once, right? There's been huge companies that have done this, right? One of the biggest ones that's come up has been the Dollar Shave Club, and he talks about that in this book. But I mean, Dollar Shave Club has really changed the industry with their subscription service. And one of the ones I subscribe to, we're going to Menfluential next month. Maybe by the time you're watching this, we'll have already been there. But we're going to go speak at that conference. And
This
one of the
month.
yeah, this month, yeah, the organizers who put that together, Alpha M, Aaron, he built a company called Tish Hanley, which is a men's skincare product, and I subscribe to that as a monthly subscription box, right? Because of the convenience of it. So, so I think subscription model is really something that you should consider if you're starting a business, and something that I definitely would have wanted to start with from the very beginning. So that's a really good book for getting an introduction to that.
We wish we had read Build a Business, Not a Job and Clockwork and E-Myth way back in the days, so we wouldn't have made the mistakes we've already made, right? And
Exactly.
that's the crucial problem, that when you're an entrepreneur, you don't have the time to read all of these books. So you make like mistakes in business that you feel like, damn, I wish I hadn't made that mistake, but you don't know. You have no perspective. So that's
Exactly.
why this
Yeah.
is important. Oh, by the way, when you go to that page, you will be able to watch samples of videos. You'll literally be able to watch how the summaries are done, so you can figure out if this is for you or not.
Yeah.
Bunch of different summaries. Like one of them is like how to go from $0 to $1 million, the one key from Ready Fire Aim. That video is there. Definitely watch that one, because that'll give you perspective on simplifying your business.
All right. Cool. So make sure you jump on it. Like we said, first 50 get the discount. It may be already too late, but go check and see.
All right, guys.
All right. All right. Thanks a lot again, Manny. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.